Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the landscape. Welcome back to my favorite subject, moving water. I am here, I promise you. There's me. I'm at a location today, absolutely awash. I can't quite believe I just said that. There's lots of moving water where I am. And what I'm doing, I'm just walking around and showing you some of the fantastic shapes and lines and all the rest of it that water makes as it moves. And I'm just going to pan very quickly down where I walked. And there's more stuff down here, which I haven't even gone and looked at yet. I could spend an entire day here photographing these items of moving water. However, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to concentrate on one particular falls. A little bit of a tip for everybody when negotiating a location with moving water. Stay off the wet rock. There's plenty of dry rock here today, so I can move around, but I am very carefully watching where I'm going. So the water movement that I'm going to concentrate on for today's video is that one. I was just trying to figure out why. I think because out of all of them that we've got here today, it's probably one of the strongest. Simply because we've got all these steps coming down. And I can hear the water coming down those steps. I can hear the noise that it makes. There's probably 2 images. Maybe even 3. There's this main section here, then there's this perhaps quieter section, and then there's another one here, and then there's this one down here, and then there's that one there where the water swirls. Oh, and then there's another. Oh gosh, I really could spend all day here. It's wonderful. But what we're going to do, for the purposes of this video, we're going to see what we can make of this falls here. So I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to get you behind the camera and we're going to start to explore it together. See what we can make of it. Right, let's get you behind the camera. Okay, we are Sigma FPL Cam. So, I've not done any framing up yet. I've literally just plonked the camera on the tripod, put the tripod somewhere, and that's it. That's as much thought as I put into it. I have tried to select a vantage point that's relatively high up. And the reason for that is that I could do with a pointy stick. Where's a pointy stick? Oh, pointy stick. Is that what's often important to me in my waterfall images is showing a journey. So the journey needs to have a beginning and it needs to have an end. If I tilt the camera up, you'll see the sky starts to intrude quite quickly. So if I lift the camera up, that gives me a lot of options at the top of the frame to exclude the sky. So aside from that, I've not actually put a huge amount of thought into where I'm going to put the tripod. Right, so what frame size are we? We are 16 by 9. So let's start with a 3 by 2. See what we get. Because I've tilted the camera up, you can't see it anymore. Let me reposition you. There we go. So something like that. Do I need to come wider still? I'm going quite wide because, oh hang on, the video camera's not focusing. Come back a bit. There we are. So I've gone quite wide because I've got lots and lots of movements out here, but you kind of follow that white line. It needs to be there. I think if you cut it off, it'll look kind of not quite right. Now there is a danger that this line takes you out of the frame, but do I live with it, or do I do what I suggested and just concentrate on the falls? I would make the point that when I'm photographing waterfalls, I don't have this little conversation out loud. I do it in my head. Let me just try 16 by 9 frame size. No, that doesn't fix it. What was going through my head was this corner here is very, very empty. Everything that's going on is going on here. Oh, I've just thrown my stick away. So, it's a hard one, isn't it? I wonder whether I will have to do what I initially suggested, which is to create an image. Can you still see that? Let me just check you. There we go. Create an image. Maybe just concentrate in one particular water movement. Something like that. Okay, yeah. So I've gone for this square crop because the nature of what this is seems to lend itself to being in a square. I'm not so bothered now about water flowing out the edge of the frame because you actually have a shape and an object in the corner that supports that shape. So you do get that idea of water flowing down and round and then out and beyond. To me anyway, it doesn't jar quite so much. I keep moving the camera left and right because if I come this way, I end up with a lot of nothing here. Whereas if I go that way, I end up with these two corners more or less the same. I think that works. I have a start. I have a little complementary falls here that's a similar shape. Yeah, I think that works. So in terms of aperture and focus, I think aperture can be relatively, well, no, not too narrow. Let's go back to f8. I'd focus on the water right in front of me, like so, and yeah, do the depth of field preview, make sure that everything is sharp, front to back, which it is. So I usually use the 1/3 in front, 2/3 back rule. Seems to work quite nicely. I have a polarizer on, so I'm just going to spin it. And can you see straight away that this bottom corner becomes a lot brighter? And as I spin it round, it now darkens down. I prefer that because A, I can see details underneath the surface of the water, and also in terms of appearance, these two corners are the same. In fact, these two corners are more or less the same as well, which I hadn't noticed until now. So I'm going to check the histogram. Grossly overexposed. That looks good. And so what I'm going to do now is just take a frame. The sun has come out, so the image has got very bright. Hello. And then I'm going to review that image. Now what I was reviewing the image for was how much movement had been captured. And if I just angle the video camera over here so you can actually see the falls better, I can actually see elements of water motion down here, the water being thrown out. You can clearly see little rivulets of water, almost like bicycles, coming down the falls. And I'm trying to replicate that in the image, and I'm just reviewing what I can see here with the image that I've just captured. And yeah, I can see these, what do I call them? They're not horizontal, they're these vertical movements of water in my frame. So that feels right. I don't need to do this milky water type effect, because that's not what my ears can hear. Now, I think the next one to look at is this section here, where you've got these steps. Now, rather than bore you to tears looking at the back of the camera again, I'm actually just going to set it up very quickly. And I'm going to check the exposure. Oh, you know what? It doesn't work quite so well. Let's move you back. Right, so there's the back of the camera, just on that small portion. I've brightened the image artificially so that it's a bit more obvious. And I hope you can see that the impact of this is nowhere near what we actually saw when we were looking at the original falls. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to widen the field of view. And now all of a sudden, it does have more impact. That idea of water stepping down is much, much clearer. And in fact, these two larger falls, they now support what's going on. And I think it allows this center portion to have a much louder voice. I think because these two movements, they almost act like bookends. Well, my eye anyway actually goes more into the middle now. These two movements down here, they both flow out of the frame, but because they're both the same and their shape is the same, it doesn't bother me quite so much. So I think that's a much, much stronger frame than what we originally had. So let's get rid of all that gump. Let's put the exposure back to normal. What I am going to do is I'm going to go a little bit tighter. Not too tight. Do I come across there and there? Yeah, something something like that. What I was trying to do was balance these two corners. So there's a rock here, there are some rocks up there, but there's also some water movement. So those two corners are balanced, and you've got that notion of water moving out of each corner. Excuse me. There's a semicircle here that supports those two movements. Yeah, I quite like that actually. Now the sun's come back out, which is a bit of a pain. I shall wait for the sun to go back in. Let's just retry the polarizer. Yeah, I think the polarizer helps to remove the glare off this portion and allow it to be a bit more obvious. A bit like our previous image, I think I'm going to try and keep this notion of movement and make it nice and clear, because I think that adds to the notion of noise. I am going to have to be careful with these shadows though, not to sink them too much and balance that against the water movement. So I'm going to wait for the sun to go in, enable so that I can capture the white motion of the water and allow these shadows to be a bit clearer, and then I shall show you the image. What a lovely day. So I hope that sort of explanation and context made sense, and I hope you like the two images. Moving water, I find moving water a tricky subject, and I have lots of rejections, lots of images that don't quite make it. But every once in a while, I will come across a situation and I'll capture an image and it will just tick that box. So I think it's one of those things that I know inherently I love it, and I just need to keep doing it and trying to hone those situations where all those boxes come together. So I'm going to leave this video here. Hope you've got something out of it. If you like landscape photography and you're not a subscriber, please do consider becoming a subscriber to my channel. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. If you've liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Your support is gratefully appreciated. If you liked either image and why, please leave a comment down below. I always like to read your comments and suggestions. And until we're back out in the landscape again, everybody, stay well, stay safe, take care of each other. Bye for now. See you again soon.